Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. I wish that I could say that it was a happy Friday, but as all of you know, it is not. What a 24 hours it's been. I woke up this morning hoping maybe this was all a dream, right? Like maybe this is just a big, an episode of Punk'd. Maybe there's a chance that this is still a first world civilized country where we don't try to imprison our political opponents. But no, it wasn't a dream. This is just Joe Biden's America in 2024, apparently. I still am having a hard time wrapping my brain around Donald Trump being convicted on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in a case that should have never gone to trial in the first place. Remember, alleged misdemeanors in which the statute of limitations had expired. A case that the Biden DOJ, they looked at it and they said, nope, you know what, we'll pass. The FEC looked into it and said, no thanks. And don't let it be lost on you. I'm talking about the Biden regime's alphabet agencies. Do you think if those two agencies had anything, a sliver, a tiny little sliver of evidence against Donald Trump, do you think they would have hesitated to prosecute him? Of course not. But Soros-funded DA Alvin Bragg, oh, wow, here we go. The DA who releases violent criminals into the streets of New York. But jails people, by the way, like Daniel Penny for saving a New York subway train from a crazed, mentally ill homeless man who, again, don't let it be lost on you, was one of those violent criminals released back into the streets by DA Alvin Bragg. Do you see that cycle? So this goon says, ho, you think you need an actual crime committed? Hold my pitchfork. Get it? Because he's a demon. I'm going to be a Democrat hero. Show me the man and I'll find you the crime. You know, I remember back when the Trump indictments began and I sat on my old set right over there, right across the room, telling people we were having a conversation about people who were saying they're not actually going to jail Trump. The Democrats would not come on. They're not actually going to send him to prison. I remember very clearly telling them the hell they wouldn't. You better believe they would love nothing more than to send Donald Trump to prison because these are evil communist pricks. They don't care about your rules. They don't care about your morals. They play to win. The ends justifies the means. Constitution be damned. Morals be damned. Values be damned. Tradition be damned. They don't care. No rules. Constitution, that's an old dusty document to them. Of course they want to send him to prison. I said it before many months ago when this started. This isn't a bluff. I don't know what more it will take to convince people they mean it. And so, here we are, right? Joe Biden's top political opponent, former President Donald Trump, found guilty of a lot of felonies. A felony. What felony? We're still not sure. The prosecution never actually said. They never alleged or gave evidence of any specific crime that would have upped this absurd accusation of miscategorizing a business expense to a felony. But they didn't have to. This was all part of the plan, right? They're always 20 steps ahead of where spineless Republicans are at any given point in time. 20 steps ahead. This was all part of the plan. They knew where they were. They knew the venue. It's New York City, where as much as we are supposed to believe that the justice system, I'm never calling it that again. The injustice system affords you the right to a jury of your peers. That's what they get. Well, he had the right to a jury of his peers. No, I'm sorry. If you are a conservative in Manhattan, worse yet, a conservative leader, a known figure, a public figure who is conservative in Manhattan, you will never get a fair trial with a jury of your peers. Those are not your peers. They hate you. They hate what you stand for. They want to destroy you, and they will, given the opportunity. That's what we just saw play out. These jurors, you know what? My opinion, nobody else is here at the Blaze. These were evil bastards who sat there day after day, watching, waiting for the actual evidence, tying Trump to a crime. There was none, but it didn't matter. They already knew what they wanted to do, and the judge gave them permission to do it. And you know what? My bad for thinking in the last several weeks, surely these people have some humanity left to do the right thing. Surely, even in a place like New York City, even in a place where it feels like the odds are stacked against Trump, they're crazy liberals who don't like the guy. Surely these people understand the ramifications of what they are about to do. Surely they at least have common sense. I was wrong. My faith in humanity, my bad. Okay, I guess that was naive of me to think that there is any sort of semblance of fairness left when it comes to politics. All bets are off the table now, I guess. And so we await sentencing, which takes place July 11th. And I'm going to say this, and I don't mean it as hyperbole. Donald Trump is going to be sentenced to prison. Like that. This was one step in the plan, right? He is going to sentence Donald Trump to prison. This is a judge who has gamed the system the entire time. By the way, his daughter is a Democrat consultant raising money for the radical left. Did you know that? That's a fun little tidbit. He already unconstitutionally ruled that Trump couldn't even talk about the injustices of this case. Couldn't even talk about it. An unconstitutional gag order. He is not even allowed to talk about the witch hunt that is taking place before Americans' very eyes. That is his First Amendment right. Judge had no problem taking that away from him. He mandated that Donald Trump be present in the courtroom every day of the trial to prevent him from campaigning, of course. He didn't allow favorable testimony to Donald Trump. He told the jury not to consider whether jail time would be a factor. Whoa, don't worry about that. You guys don't worry your pretty little heads about that. You let me handle that part of it. That is my plan. You guys just find him guilty, and then I will do my part. Okay? And then, of course, in the most unprecedented move, he didn't even require a specific crime for the jury to be unanimous on. The lawfare is the point. Okay? And so I know I said this a long time ago, that their end game was to imprison Donald Trump. But over the last 24 hours, it's all really started to sink in. And I honestly wasn't prepared for how disgusting this feels. It feels like I've been sick. My stomach has been sick for the last 24 hours. And it feels like America has lost a piece of its innocence that we can never get back. I just don't know how we can. And I'm just watching the country that I once knew slip away into a straight up banana republic, communist dystopia. And I hope nobody is watching this and thinking, come on, don't be dramatic. Don't exaggerate things. Guys, I am serious. This is country-ending shit happening right now. The criminals are let loose into the streets to create more crime, and the innocent become felons. And predictably, by the way, the left is squawking about, oh, well, now the Republican presidential candidate is a convicted felon. You should be ashamed of yourselves. As if that word means a damn thing now. Congratulations, Democrats. You have now made the word felon not matter. Congratulations, you played yourselves. Or maybe you didn't, because they are, of course, the side that has the actual felons. And now that word will mean nothing. It means nothing when the trial is a sham. It means nothing when the game is rigged. And I want to play I saw the Trump war room. I don't know who did this video. I don't know who edited it. It was just extremely well done from the Trump War Room social media account. And they were very quick on getting it done and released it last night following the verdict. Watch that.
Thank you for joining us here today. Earlier this afternoon, Donald Trump was arraigned by a Manhattan grand jury on 34 felony counts.
This case is an abomination. It's obviously political. 7 years to try to come up with this case. They're just wrong on the law.
The only crime that Donald Trump is being prosecuted for is the crime of running for president.
Political persecution at the highest level.
They've quite frankly given up on trying to beat him at the polls. Either going to steal it or stop it by law firm.
A Democrat prosecutor elected on a Get Trump platform.
What's going on here is a disgusting disgrace. It is war on Trump. It is war on the Republican Party. And it is a war on the Republic.
This case is the weakest case I've seen in 60 years of teaching, practicing, and writing about criminal law.
And I doubt the New York indictment would have been brought against a defendant whose name was not Donald Trump.
This judge, you don't need a prosecutor if you have a judge like this. This judge is not on the level.
It's a terrible case, but the judge has been pretty much a rubber stamp on everything that Bragg has wanted to do.
They're perverting the system of justice. That's where the danger lies. The corruption and subversion of our institutions by the left.
This is the Democrats' entire strategy to confine President Trump to a dirty criminal courtroom and keep him off the campaign trail where he can bring his winning message to voters across this country.
New York has become a legal banana republic. They are so determined to get Donald Trump.
Look, convicting Donald Trump, that's all they have.
I think they have no cards, and they're depending upon Trump getting convicted.
That Trump train doesn't show any signs of slowing down.
The only verdict that matters is the verdict at the ballot box.
I used to be really proud of this country. I was really proud of our justice system, which, didn't get it right 100% of the time, but it was the best out there. Innocent until proven guilty. That used to be the way things worked in this country. We have lost a piece of our innocence that we cannot get back. And here's what has to happen. Anyone who has a problem with Joe Biden's disastrous policies, which should be every single freaking person in this country, and anyone who has a problem with maybe not Joe Biden himself, maybe not, his just him being in office, but maybe you got a problem with the tyrannical regime bastardizing our justice system and turning us into Venezuela, okay? Anyone who has a problem with that needs to show up at the polls and tell these goons to shove it. First of all, here's what else has to happen. Elected Republicans need to have the balls to start locking up the Democrats. They started it. We will finish it. Okay, start with Joe Biden. Start with the entire Biden crime family, by the way. There is more evidence. You want to talk about mounds and mounds of evidence. There is more evidence to lock up Joe Biden and his crackhead son Hunter. And by the way, his brother James. Lock up the entire Biden crime family. Except, keep the baby mama out. The baby mama and her poor daughter can stay. They don't claim her anyway. Other than that, lock up the entire family. They deserve it. Then you can go to Bob Menendez. Then you can go to Nancy Pelosi, and you can go to all these Democrats who are actual criminals. That is what has to happen next. I will never forget Donald Trump campaigned the first time around on Lock Her Up. And it was great. And it got great applause and everybody loved it. His biggest mistake was not doing it. Because you can't say something like that and then not follow through. Your enemies will see it as weakness. And that is exactly what they did. And they seized upon it. And there is no excuse for Republicans to make that mistake ever again. They started it. We will finish it. And by the way, to all these weak Republicans out there, I see all of these, well, I don't love it, but we have to respect the decision. We have to respect the justice system. This isn't justice. This is the most clear-cut, in-your-face case of political lawfare in American history. And anyone who tells me I should respect the weaponization of the justice system against the president's political opponents can go themselves. I hope I made that clear. Now, I know that we have to take a break, but I want to, when we come back, I want to talk to my friend and my favorite legal expert, Josh Hammer, about what happens next with the sentencing and the appeals process for Donald Trump. And then we'll bring in the panel later. But I want to thank our sponsor first, Birch Gold. What a great time to talk about gold. I just said that this was country-ending shit. Well, this is not stable, okay? We're not a stable country anymore. And I'm just saying, if you have a savings and it's all invested in a 401k or an IRA, you should not do that. You should not do that right now at all. You need to look at diversifying. Our country's going in the shitter. I'm really sorry that I've said that twice during this ad. I can't not, okay? You need physical assets and you need to diversify, and you can do that with Birch Gold. So what they can do for you is they can take one of those IRAs or 401ks that you have just lying. Maybe it's just lying around. You had it from like a previous company and you're not doing anything with it. They can help you actually convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, and it's not going to cost you a penny out of pocket. Now is the time to start diversifying. Now is the time to stock up on emergency prep, stock up on emergency food, on emergency medicine, and also diversify your portfolio. Okay? You can get a no-obligation free information kit by texting the word Sarah to 989898. Again, it's totally for free. There's no obligation. They'll just explain how you can do it, and then they can help you from there. It is texting the word Sarah to 989898. Well, I want to welcome my friend to the show, Josh Hammer. He is the host of America on Trial. And Josh, I'm glad that you're here. So the name of your podcast is America on Trial. And I feel like the verdict is in, Josh, and America is screwed.
Yeah, Sarah, I think that's a pretty accurate summation of where things currently stand. I'm definitely not going to be someone who's going to tell you that you're being too pessimistic or that we need to try to look on the glass half full side of the ledger or anything like that. That is definitely not what I have been preaching for the past 24 hours or so. I think that this is disgusting. It is horrific. It is obviously unprecedented. Growing up, I've been a news junkie my whole life. My grandpa was actually in the newspaper business after he was also a lawyer himself. So I grew up, reading a lot of news. I have these fond childhood memories. And I can quite literally remember reading about foreign countries that did this, that someone gets into power and then they prosecute and try to throw in jail their political opposition. The way that I phrased it in my column out this morning was I wrote that it kind of has this scent, this whiff of like medieval England, where the king deposes his arch rival and then sentences him to rot in the Tower of London on the River Thames. This is the 21st century, and this is America. This is America. Sarah, I'm a lawyer, as you know. I went to a great law school. I worked at a big law firm, clerk for a federal appeals judge here. I have published constitutional scholarship. I lecture at law schools across the country here. Has that been a lie? Has this all been like a mirage? Yeah. These are the questions that even like fellow lawyers, judges, we're all having these conversations. A very, very, very dark day, Sarah.
Yeah, when you can have obviously you are a conservative and you're not bashful about that. But when you are in agreement with someone like Alan Dershowitz, who is not a conservative, and you guys are, but you're attorneys and you understand what the legal system and the justice system is supposed to be. By the way, Josh, I said earlier, I'm no longer calling it the justice system. It's the injustice system at this point. And I think that it's just fake to even try to call it the justice system. But to have this system, you guys know it like the back of your hand. And when you guys are in agreement, this is wrong. There is something very seriously wrong here. So I want you to kind of what, and by the way, I'm glad that you said you're not just trying to be pessimistic, because I think I dropped like 3 or 4 F-bombs earlier. I'm not proud, but it happened because I'm just like, guys, I'm not exaggerating. This is serious. Like the red alarm is sounding and flashing, like something has to happen. And I wrote last night on my social media that in order to have any sort of semblance, just any whatsoever, it might take decades to build back up, but to get any semblance of trust and faith back in the legal system, we are going to have an overturning of this decision. I don't even know if the faith is restored then. I don't know that I would ever believe in it, but if there is a chance at that happening, this has to be overturned. Do you think that will happen? And if so, what is the appeals process like? I know Donald Trump has said that they're going to appeal it. So what is that process like? And do you think it will be successful?
Okay, so with the caveat, Sarah, that I'm barred in your great state, the state of Texas, not barred in New York. So I'm not an expert in New York State appellate procedure, but I'll give it my best go here. Okay. So Trump is going to be sentenced in July. His sentencing is July 11th. That's 3 days before the Republican National Convention. Doesn't seem like a coincidence there, right?
Right.
I mean, it seems pretty deliberate.
Yep.
So the sentencing could go one of many different ways. I mean, Merchan has a lot of flexibility and wiggle room here. He could just send Donald Trump to Rikers Island. He could give him, probation. He could give him house arrest. I mean, there's various ways to skin a cat here. Now, one thing that's interesting that I had honestly forgotten about until a friend actually messaged me very shortly before you and I came on air, there actually is a federal mandate that former presidents have not just Secret Service around them, but actually armed security, armed Secret Service around them. What's interesting is that Rikers Island and actual prisons in New York City, and by the way, let me just pause and say that it is disgusting that we're even having this conversation, by the way. Disgusting. But Rikers Island, New York City penal colonies don't actually allow for armed facilities where the actual prisoners are. So there's actually a bit of a federal state law issue going on here, which is an interesting constitutional question that Trump's lawyers might take up during this sentencing, because under the United States Constitution's supremacy clause, federal law is always supreme to state law. So maybe that actually does mean that he has to go to house arrest. Having said that, I won't name names, but over Memorial Day weekend, I was out for a very good buddy's wedding out in Iowa. He's the current Solicitor General of Iowa. It was kind of like a legal eagle wedding of some sort. And I asked some, without naming names, I asked some high-ranking people in the vast right-wing conspiracy legal world, what you think is going to happen to Trump. And basically, to a T, they all told me that Trump's going to jail. So that is my instinct as well, to be honest with you. Again, this Secret Service arm thing does throw a bit of a wrench into that. Now, the appellate division could stay that. They could stay that immediately, essentially, if they wanted to. They could essentially within hours say, no, you're actually not going to jail. This is stayed pending appeal. Go do your campaign rallies in Michigan, Pennsylvania, whatever. They have that ability. Whether they would do so, I have no idea. It's impossible to predict. The current appellate division, which is above Juan Merchan in New York City, has 21 judges in the entire appellate division. Now, it's impossible to know which judges would be on the panel, which would be reviewing a stay, and then it's also impossible to know who would be on the actual appeal. The big question, even bigger than all that to me, Sarah, is, well, the Rikers Island thing's a pretty big deal, but possibly even bigger than that is, will we actually hear an appeal before November? Right. And that seems unlikely to me, to be honest with you, because that would be a very expedited timeline. They might do it, they might not, but I think the Democrats all along, Sarah, have wanted to run against a so-called convicted felon, yes. And unless they expedite it, they're probably going to get their wish.
Yeah. What about, I've been reading some legal experts who have said that there could be a potential play to take this to the Supreme Court. What, do you know anything about that?
So I saw Mark Levin talking and writing about this. It would be a common writ, which you could theoretically do. Mark's argument is he's citing Bush versus Gore, which is the very controversial December 2000 case that essentially decided the 2000 election down in Florida. It was an equal protection clause ruling that essentially said that some ballots were not being counted the same as others. So Mark is basically saying that if you look at what is happening here, when it comes to obvious election interference and the fact that this trial was held now. They could have easily delayed it. All the other obvious deficiencies and infirmities that have characterized this entire proceeding. What Mark says is that there's a possible Bush versus Gore equal protection clause problem here. I like their creative thinking a lot. At this point, I see very little harm in Trump's lawyers trying to do that. I'm not going to lie to you. I think it's a bit of a stretch, and I don't think that the justices would agree to do that. But I see no reason not to try, honestly.
Yeah. I want to ask you one last question on this. I always knew, I was just talking about this earlier, I knew that their intention was clearly to send him to prison. They wanted Donald Trump in prison. That was very clear to me from the get-go. But I honestly, in my heart of hearts, did not expect this case to be the one in which they would do that. Were you like, well, it's in New York City, he's screwed? Because every day that I read through the evidence, I was like, there's no way, as much as you could possibly hate Donald Trump, there's no way as a juror you can look at this and say, yes, I'm comfortable finding him guilty. There's just no way. I had faith in humanity that wouldn't happen. And I honestly was like kind of shocked that it was this particular case. What were your thoughts on it as you were walking through it?
So when the 4 indictments dropped last year, so there's 4 criminal indictments, obviously. There's New York, Georgia. Those are 2 state cases. Then Jack Smith's 2 federal probes.
We need a flow chart so that we can tell which indictments we're talking about. Go ahead.
Right. So when all 4 of these came down, I personally was of the opinion that the Georgia case actually was the most dangerous of the 4, whereas the actual underlying conduct was potentially most legally problematic in the Florida case, the classified documents case. Jack Smith messed up his hand there because he invoked a ridiculous statute, the Espionage Act, this dusty World War I controversial statute. He whipped out this ridiculous theory of the case there. If he had gone on simple obstruction charges in Florida, I think Jack Smith could have actually had a semi-viable case there. But the New York case all along was a joke. I mean, this was, legally speaking, by far the biggest joke of the 4. Not even close, Sarah. By far. I mean, how do I know that? Because Alvin Bragg's own predecessor, Cy Vance Jr., in the New York County, New York DA's office, who was a bit of a left-winger himself, lest I add, he looked into this exact same theory of the case and declined to prosecute. The federal prosecutor's office in the SDNY, the Southern District of New York, they also looked into this and declined to press charges. So Alvin Bragg brought it because he's a Soros-funded hack. And all along, Sarah, when this indictment dropped in March 2023, I saw the 34 counts. It's 34 counts, by the way, for essentially the same thing.
Yes,
it's just different ledger items in the counting book.
Yeah.
But, the only way that Bragg could get around this statute of limitations problem was to say that it's in furtherance of something else. And I was waiting. Are they going to tell us what that something else is pre-trial? No. Is it going to come during trial? No. I learned with the jury instructions, which is when I assumed that the rest of the world learned. It is such a farce. And yes, to your point, I did hold out some hope all along that of the 12 jurors, 2 of them were lawyers. Right. One was a corporate lawyer, one's a civil litigator. They're probably liberals. They're probably libs. They're lawyers in New York City. But at a bare minimum, a lawyer who had the same legal training or similar to what I had should be asking very basic questions, such as what is the freaking source of law that we are trying to send someone, let alone a former president of the United States, to jail on? And apparently that did not happen.
Yeah, exactly. It is a very sad day for our country and for our legal system. I appreciate you, Josh, all of your hard work. Everyone make sure that you are following Josh. And it is America on Trial. Although, Josh, we do have a spoiler alert. We know we're screwed. But make sure that you check it out. Josh, it's always a pleasure. We'll see you soon.
See you soon, my friend. Thank
you. All right. You know what? I could really use a drink right now. And if you also feel like you could use a drink right now, I suggest that you try Flying Ace Spirits, because not only are you going to get a wonderfully crafted whiskey, you also can support Folds of Honor. So Folds of Honor, since 2007, has provided life-changing scholarships to spouses and children of America's fallen or disabled in combat. And they've awarded, 51,000 scholarships, more than $200 million. And so obviously the need is still great. And Flying Ace Spirits is partnering with them to donate. They are doing 4 different scholarships. Okay, so if you want to donate, you can donate. But also, if you just want to buy their whiskey, which is what I'm going to be doing, you can just go buy their whiskey and you will be donating to Folds of Honor. So go to flyingacespirits.com, use promo code unfiltered, and you will get free shipping on every order. You can scan that QR code on the screen if you're watching it. It is flyingacespirits.com, promo code unfiltered. All right, I did it. I was waiting for that. I needed to be serious through my interview with a, of course, legal expert, but I'm done now. And I've had it. And I'm wearing this hat everywhere I go now. Do you hear me? Do you hear me, bitches? This is going on wherever I go. I want to welcome to the program, now that I've gotten that out of my system, Logan Hall. He is, of course, our digital strategist here at Blaze Media, along with Eric July, Blaze TV contributor and founder of Ripiverse Comics. What a great day for you guys to be on. Logan is, we're matchy.
Showing
matchy.
Solidarity.
Yes, yeah, you, of course, with the shirt as well. And I would like to point out, because everyone's going to be asking, this is JD Vance's signature on your hat.
Yes.
Everyone's going to be like, who signed the hat? Who signed the hat? If you guys can see it. So would love to get your thoughts, gentlemen, on what just took place yesterday before we go into anything further.
Real banana republic hours.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Democrats have kind of gone past a point of no return. They've signaled that they are willing to do anything to get this man and to stop him from getting back into the White House. And I think a lot of people on our side kind of felt a tide shift. They didn't know how serious this really was. I think yesterday was a big wake-up call. I know you do, but I think for a lot of them, it was a big wake-up call as to how dire the situation in 2024 is.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. I was like, I sat here over there and told people, I'm like, they'd be like, oh, come on, they're not actually going to throw Donald Trump in prison. Like, do you know who these people are?
Yeah. What wouldn't they do?
Right, exactly. I'm like, they are full-on communists. Of course they would throw Donald Trump in prison. But even I wasn't prepared for it to be this case. It was the weakest of all of the cases. I mean, every day you had CNN, MSNBC going out and being like, yeah, the prosecution's basically a joke. And yet you still can convict someone in a city where they are unpopular now, I guess.
Well, yeah. I mean, you for sure can do that and be very, very successful. You alluded to it in your first initial segments and then talked about what we've discussed even back on the other show and how the left plays to win. They do not play to be morally sound or ethically sound or in alignment with what is just, what is righteous. They don't really care about that. They look at whatever the path of victory, whatever that may be. And if it means doing something that is absolutely foul, they'll do that. And look, I say this every time I'm on the show because it is a difficult enemy to combat because you have to be prepared to accept the harsh reality. And that harsh reality is that, well, they only use, like I was talking about earlier with this whole like ethics, right? And having some sort of principles. They only use that when they can attack their opponents. So they'll hold you to the standard, but they certainly won't hold themselves to the standard. So you're dealing with dirty, rotten scumbags, for lack of better terms, right? And I'm saying this as the objective party looking at this. I'm not. I'm the only one here not wearing a hat, right? So I'm saying that as the objective party. People get screwed over by government every day. You don't really expect or anticipate that it's going to be a former president of the United States that's actually in the middle of his campaign. That is wild. It shows how desperate they are. But more importantly, it shows how dirty they are.
Yeah, I mean, well, and I also think it's going to backfire tremendously for them. I think if last
I've seen some initial polls, and it's crazy how. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be like that.
Dude, okay, so okay, you brought that up. I think I have a poll here. Let's see, he got a 6-point bump in approval. Donald Trump did after being found guilty. A 6-point bump in approval, like literally just right afterwards.
See, this is what I think will happen out of this. White pill for all you guys that may support Trump here. I think that it's less. I think the people that despise him. There's no chance. I think a lot of those guys are going to go is going to change their vote. But you can imagine someone like sitting on the fence, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just like, okay, this is pretty screwed up.
Or just people who don't vote regularly.
Right.
Who
Right.
are
Exactly
seeing
right.
This, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you're right. Well, and so there is the polling that showed a pretty significant bump just right after the announcement, but also the fundraising, Trump's campaign site, the fundraising site just completely went down. They crashed. There were so many people who were donating, the entire site went down. And so I think we have a clip of Donald Trump talking about the record number of donations and record amount of money that they raised in a 10-hour period just overnight. Here's that.
Last night, we just got a report this morning, in the history of politics, I believe, maybe I'm wrong, somebody will find that I'm wrong, maybe, but I don't think so. They raised with small money donors, meaning like $21, $42, $53, $38, a record $39 million in about a 10-hour period. No, think of that. I like those people.
And I saw it all over social media. Obviously, I know social media isn't real life, but real life people are on social media. And they were all like, I've literally never donated to a political campaign in my life. And I just donated to the Trump campaign. Tim Pool was like, I donated the maximum that I could. I mean, so many people were like, I just made the largest political donation I have ever made because these guys, you cannot do this in America.
Yeah, it was huge. And it did backfire that way. There was a lot of that yesterday where you see people saying, I've never donated ever, and I'm doing it now. And that's good. I think the issue is that will it backfire come election time? Because all that matters is going to be ballots. And we know Democrats are going to pull their usual dirty tricks. So we have to be prepared. And this kind of goes back to what Eric was saying, is that the left, for all their faults, they do real politics. The GOP does a lot of fake politics where they send out fundraising and they never actually stop or do anything to the Democrats. You have Speaker Johnson complaining, and it's like, well, you just funded this guy's administration. So, like, just kind of fake outrage, you know? Right. Meanwhile, the left is... They just found our front runner guilty in an obviously rigged trial. I mean, these people, something like, I think Trump got like 5 or 6% support in that district of New York. I mean, it's like the jury pool is obviously going to be biased against him.
Right.
So the right is going to have to wake up and realize that, like, this sort of fake politics, like, is not going to work anymore. The stakes are very high and you're going to have to do something. I mean, where are red state DAs? Why isn't Biden or any of his administration officials or even just high-ranking Democrats, why aren't they being charged in any of these states?
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't know what it's going to take for Republicans to wake up. I think they're moving in the right direction, but we'll see.
We can hope that this at least maybe sparked something. I know House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan is now calling Alvin Bragg in for testimony June 13th. And but again, it's like
it's a hearing,
right? And that's why I'm like, I've heard so many hearings. There's been so many hearings on Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and all this, and still Joe Biden remains in the White House when he should have been impeached a long freaking time ago. So I'm not sure how much faith I have in a hearing, but it's like, I guess it's something that this isn't going to stop until we stop it. Period. Yep. Part of that might be, Jim Jordan and the House handling it if they are actually willing to do something and not just have a hearing. Part of it is we got to start locking these people up too.
True.
I'm not saying that like ironically. We need to start locking these people up because here's the difference. These are real, actual criminals. Joe Biden and Hunter Biden are criminals. Hillary Clinton is a criminal. Bob Menendez is a criminal. Well, Nancy Pelosi is a criminal. Lock them up.
They love saying that no one is above the law when, that's just a joke on its face.
Right.
All of these people are
above
the law. Trump is like the one guy who actually lost money when he got into office. All of these other politicians enrich themselves.
Yes.
So it's what's the standard there? I mean, Trump was obviously targeted here. By all of these people that are above the law. And it should wake a lot of conservatives up to what the law is nowadays. It's punishing your enemies and rewarding your friends. And that's the way that the left has really crossed the Rubicon here. And they've decided that they want to take us down this path. So we're going to have to fight back and grow some stones. No more same old, same old.
Yep. Amen. All right. We've got more to come. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. I don't think that it can be overstated who we are dealing with here, who the other side really is. And so I want to play a clip here of Joe Biden leaving a press conference, and he's being asked about Donald Trump saying that he is a political prisoner. And I just watch the look on Joe Biden's face.
Mr. President, can you tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir?
Evil. Look at that. Look at that. You evil, smarmy.
So true.
Like, what kind of communist bastard? He's not even hiding it. That's the thing, right? Like, look, he cannot even hide. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to.
That's the problem, man. Look, harsh realities. I said it last segment. That's what we're going to have to start accepting. Like, everybody, I've long accepted that. But I think every average, just regular American needs to accept and anticipate that. Look, get it. You've read your little social studies books growing up, and you're under this impression that these are the best among us. All the court system, this is where everything plays out. Everybody's fair. The jurors are fair. The judges are fair. Everybody's fair. Everybody's objective, and the prosecutors want the best. That's never been how it was. But if you don't think that that's the case now, I don't know what else you need to see. Right. This is the prime example of it because it's happening at the highest order to a person that should be untouchable. If there is an untouchable person that you would think, oh, well, he is above the law, it's going to be Donald Trump, right? Before he even got elected, let alone after being a freaking president of the United States.
Yeah.
So they've told you, like, we don't care what your status is. If you are in our way of us and our goals, we will do what it takes. And it looks like it sucks, but that's the optics part of it. Like, they get to be able to sort of nullify the blow because this does look very, very bad. But, I mean, all of their handlers can, this is what's supposed to happen. Trump is just, he's a boogeyman. He's this very, very bad person. This is the right outcome. This was supposed to happen. And all of the normies may look at that and say, well, this was what was supposed to happen. However, if there is to be a white pill, I think there's a lot of folks that were sitting on the sidelines watching this thing play out that are like, something ain't right. Something is just not right. And now it's about adjusting your actions accordingly.
Yeah. I agree completely. Harsh realities are what is a tough pill for a lot of conservatives to swallow. There was a big debate recently where on conservative Twitter, where they're debating, do we still live under the Constitution or not? And I mean, I don't know how you could even live through COVID and still think, but let alone now.
We haven't been living under the Constitution for a long time.
I don't know how you live through COVID and be like, yeah, we still have a Constitution.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, now this should set the record completely straight. There's nothing that they can do. There's no appealing to this old neutrality of like, oh, we can all just get along, and this is just going to be handled correctly. It's the American way. It's fair. That's just, we're going to have to be rid of that on our side. And then the sooner we can acknowledge that, the better.
Yeah, I agree. I want to play one more clip here of just what we're dealing with when it comes to the other side. This is on CNN right after the Trump verdict. Norm Eisen, he is a former Obama official, and he's like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Donald Trump actually could go to prison. Watch.
And here's what I discovered. Yes. That in the most serious FBR cases, a sentence of imprisonment is routinely imposed. This is the most serious falsifying business records case in the history of the state of New York. I think Alvin Bragg is going to ask for a sentence of incarceration.
You think?
And I think Judge Merchan will very seriously weigh that.
So the special treatment, you're saying, would be if he were not given a prison sentence.
Right. And I think Judge
yes.
Merchan will
Yes.
look at the case.
Right.
We've debated this.
Oh, that right. Yes, see, we're at the epic proportions of gaslighting here.
Yes.
Of just like, no, actually, they went easy on Donald Trump. That's what just happened.
Yes, our enemies are deeply, deeply evil people. As Trump says, they're sick. So maybe they're not even like intended to be that way. They're just really screwed up in the head. But MSNBC was saying it's a day for celebration. They called it almost
no.
Yesterday after the verdict, they said it's almost miracle is too strong of a word, but it's a day for celebration. So they can hardly contain their excitement at just relentlessly targeting our front runner through lawfare. And yeah, it's not fair, but the funniest thing is seeing like Jake Tapper on there trying to be all serious, like can barely trying not to smile from ear to ear. Right. It's really just gross and sick. And you think about just like how happy they are about this. Just they're cheering while they destroy our country.
Yeah, they love it. We got about 30 seconds, Eric.
Yeah, look, they would have it no other way. If they could imprison him, if they can, let's say that, they absolutely will. And everybody needs to be prepared for that, because if that for sure happens, then I think all bets are off, and you're going to have people taking things far more seriously, as they should.
I agree. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. To Logan's point, one more quick video here. To Logan's point, maybe these people are just severely mentally ill. Here is one woman reacting to the verdict. Watch.
Now, I have a question. And Karen, let me start with you, which is, what exactly Trump is guilty! Right now, we know sentencing is going to be July 11th.
You're going to jail!
The dog is the most sane one in this picture. Because the dog's like, what the hell is going on? What are you doing?
That poor dog. These are the people we're dealing with.
Yep.
Not what I would call stable individuals, because to top it all off, I mean, who do you think released that publicly? Like, this woman had to have
thought it was a good idea.
Thought she looked good. She'd be like, oh, this is so cool. I'm going to post this on my social media. Yeah. That is not a cute look, chick. That's the other side.
There's something like, there's a really interesting study that went out a few years ago, and it was like something like a majority, like 3/4 or like 65% of liberal women have been diagnosed with a mental condition in their lifetime.
And
it's believable.
It is. That's why I'm like, and if you dealt with liberal women at all, you're like, I believe that. That's literally every single liberal woman I've come into contact with. Things are making a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
Maybe they just can't help it. I do, again, feel sorry for the dog. Poor dog.
Good dog, man.
Someone call PETA.